Alright, so for this video, I'm just going to do a really quick video about intrusive thoughts and how to combat them, right? Because I got a comment in one of my recent videos that sort of asked me, like, how do you combat intrusive thoughts? And I'll say this as a caveat. I'm not necessarily an expert at it, but I'll tell you, like, one of the things that I do, or a couple of things that I do in order to combat intrusive thoughts. And, like, one of the good ways to combat intrusive thoughts, like, whenever you get, like whenever you get thoughts that are like gross, or you get thoughts of like something bad happening and you don't want it, like you don't want it to happen or whatever. It's almost like sometimes you'll get thought, like, for example, I have cats, right? And so sometimes, like, it'll be like a bad thought will enter my head, and I'll be like, oh man, like, what if I like killed my cats or whatever? And and it's very obvious that, like, that some of those thoughts are like telepathic interactions with, like, entities trying to plant stuff into your head, right? So the first way, and the first thing to sort of realize, is sort of like a general principle, is that intrusive thoughts are like if you think about it like a fire, the thing that feeds the sort of gasoline that feeds intrusive thoughts is fear, right? So one of the things that people try to do is people try to control their thoughts, right? But the thing that you really need to control is you need to learn how to control emotion, and then the thoughts will follow. Because yet again, intrusive thoughts feed off of fear, like that fear state of energy, which is, and I think that, like, intrusive thoughts sort of exist as like so they're trying to, like, generate loosh, essentially, by, like, if they see someone who's like like they're not necessarily like in like in like an abusive situation, or in any type of suffering, what these entities will do is they'll try to, like give you like intrusive thoughts, because it's almost like you're too happy or whatever, right? But the thing is that, like, yet again, the core state of a consciousness that these beings try to activate is the fear based state of consciousness, right? So if you learn how to control your emotions, you learn how to, like, get out of fear, right? Which is which is basically to essentially not be scared, to not feel scared, right? Yet again, you're not controlling the thoughts, you're not trying to make the thoughts go away necessarily, but you're trying to get out of the fear-based state of consciousness. And because of the fact that you get out of fear, that's when the intrusive thoughts stop, because you cut it off at the source, essentially. So learning how to control your emotions, and learning how to like learning how to quiet the mind as well, like not only how to control your emotions, but learning how to quiet the mind as well, and how to silence the mind is essential. And this leads to the second thing, which is essentially putting a focus on your physical surroundings, right? And I also expect, like, extend this to, working out and exercising, right? Because I think about it, like, if you're doing like a plank or something, or if you're doing like a plank, you're on the ground, right? It's almost like you're physically exerting yourself to the point where it's like you don't have time to think intrusive thoughts, right? And I mean, this is why this is mostly like a guy thing, but, like, this is why guys weight lift, right? So it's like lifting heavy thing make thoughts go away, right? So, like, that's another thing, is that if you put, so, and it's not just exercise, it's not just that, but if you put, like, a focus on your physical body, if you put your focus on, like, the five senses in your physical surroundings, that can help to essentially put essentially to get outside of your head. Right? Instead of being stuck in your thoughts, instead of being stuck in here in like these negative thought loops that these entities try to telepathically amplify. One of the things that you can do to combat that is to essentially just get outside of your head, right? And and you can like do random things, that, like, just making like a random noise, like, right, just like doing that, like, it puts attention outside of your head, right? It puts attention to, like, something sensory, and this is something that just, like, randomly came to my head, but, like, also, like, if you have like a rubber band on your wrist and you just, like, slap it, or you snap it every time you have, like, an intrusive thought, because it snaps you out of it, right? So that's another thing too, is that if you put your attention to the senses, if you put your attention to the physical body, to your physical surroundings, to get outside of your head, right, to get outside of your mind, to put attention, instead of being stuck in the negative thought loops, you're too focused on what's happening out here to be focused on what's going on. It's same thing with driving, same thing with working out, same thing with, running, or doing any activity that physically exerts something upon you. Right, it's like where attention goes, energy flows. So if you put your attention outside of your head, then the intrusive thoughts or the negative loops that could exist here, essentially just fizzle out, because you're not giving it fuel, you're not giving it energy, right? And so that's one way to direct your attention outside of your head to your physical surroundings, so you don't give your intrusive thoughts fuel, but also to get to control to learn how to control your emotions and to get out of the state of that core state of fear, right? Because yet again, intrusive thoughts and those negative thought loops, right? That like those primarily feed off of the emotion of fear, right? And a lot of this is linked back with one of the things that I've realized about my dreams is that emotions seem to be able to control or like emotions or feelings seem to be able to control the dreams more effectively than thoughts. And so I think what this does is it teaches us essentially that if you learn how to control your emotions, it's like feeling is the secret, right, feeling is the secret. If you learn how to control your emotions, then your thoughts will follow, right. And a lot of like the negative thought patterns that people have happen because of a core emotional state, right, because so it does seem to be that the emotional state of the mind precedes the explicit thoughts, right? The feeling precedes like the explicit thoughts. Like, if you have like negative, for first of all, like negative self-talk, that's definitely an entity. And I remember I had problems with that whenever I was younger. But I mean, I got out. Like it's gotten to the point now where it's like negative self-talk is not even like thinkable to me, right? Because of I mean, but it happened over a period of time, right? But basically, but yet again, like those kinds of thoughts are they like what is their energetic source? Their energetic source is negative, low vibrational emotional energy that produces those thoughts, and that this is all linked with like the way that loosh is generated on this prison planet. Right, this is all linked with like how loosh is generated. It's generated from the core emotional state being fear, right? And you have like all these different emotions extrapolated from that, right? But that core emotional state of fear, if you learn how to get out of fear, yet again, yeah, and this is where like it's like you're pulling out the weed by the root. You're not trying to control your thoughts. You're trying to control your emotions, and to get out of that emotional state of fear. And once you do that, then the thoughts follow because it's almost like a domino effect. There's a cause and effect relationship with your emotions leading to thoughts, right? So, and I think that might also have to do with like manifestation and stuff like that. Like if you want to like manifest or glitch things in the matrix, then yet again, feeling is the secret. It does seem to be that. I mean, the energy of our emotions seems to be so powerful that like what like that's like the energetic source of these entities. So that does seem to be something that is key to maybe it's key to our hidden psychic abilities. Maybe it's key to our our hidden power is the ability to control our emotions. But going back to the subject of this video, intrusive thoughts, right? The core message or the core thing that I sort of wanted to say in order to combat intrusive thoughts, the thing you have to look at the cause effect relationship. That intrusive thoughts and those negative thought patterns arise from the core state of fear, right? And when you get into that fear state of that fear mentality, once you get into that mental state, that's when the entities can sort of telepathically interact and mess with stuff in your head because of the fact that your fear-based state of consciousness is a vibrational match for these entities. But if you get out of fear, then you can have like a clearer mind if you learn how to control your emotions. If you learn if you and not only like control your emotions, but you have to become familiar with your emotions first, right? And this is something that like the modern world does not teach people. This is something that like the modern world does not like it doesn't tell people about this because of the fact that having your emotions just exist in the background and like and people say suck it up and do this. People say grow up or whatever, right? Like whenever people say that, basically what they're doing is they're essentially getting people to ignore their emotional state, and therefore their entire state of consciousness can be entirely programmed through emotionally programmed to generate loosh, right? Long term, people adopt the mindset because they get taught that their emotions don't matter, their feelings don't matter, because like, oh, talking about your feelings is for little babies, you got to grow up, right? So but yet again, like the core sort of cause effect relationship is that intrusive thoughts are caused by the core emotion of fear, and that emotions are the predecessors to thoughts, right? Emotions are the predecessors to thoughts. So the predecessors to intrusive thoughts are fearful, like the low vibrational, the looshy emotions that generate the negative energy that these entities feed off of in the unseen realms, right? So to combat these sort of intrusive thoughts, the main thing is to get out of fear, right? And I talked about working out, putting your attention to the senses, and all this other stuff. But yeah, that cause effect relationship of emotions, like your emotional state determines your thoughts. As sort of like that, like your emotions are sort of like the energetic source of all of the thoughts that you have in your head. Okay, so if you learn how to control, if you become familiar with your emotions, and you learn how to control your emotions, to the point where you can exit the state of fear, um, or you can exit the state of fear, and you realize that, like, essentially, like the fear like the fear based emotion, that's essentially where these entities get their power. And so if you get out of that state, then these entities have no power, right? And so what and so like what you need to realize is, you need to realize that, like, essentially there's literally nothing to fear from these entities, except if you give away your power in the form of fear, right? So if you get out of that yet again, it has more, like, combating intrusive thoughts has a lot more to do with your emotional state than your thoughts, surprisingly, which is, I've been talking about this the entire video, but yet again, like, the emotional state, yet again, that's what generates the loosh, that's what generates the negative energy. So learning how to control your emotions, becoming familiar with your emotions, and learning how to exit the state of fear, right? That's the primary thing that you need to do, is to emotion and this is not something that, for some people, this isn't something that happens overnight. This is something where you have to, like, do the inner work. You have to become familiar. You have to become familiar with your, like, why is it that you feel a certain way about things? Like, why is it that you're scared of certain things, right? So if you become familiar with that, then you can become familiar with how do you exit the state of fear, how do you exit that fear-based state of energy, which is the energetic source of these demonic entities. And so if you learn how to exit that, that's when the intrusive thoughts stop entirely. And so, but yeah, like, that's like the core thing that I wanted to talk about, is essentially intrusive thoughts, and thoughts in general. You're, like, all of your thoughts that you have all day, have their energetic source is your emotional state. And so if you learn how to control your emotional state, that it sort of ripples into your thoughts, right? And so it's not necessarily the thoughts determine reality. It's more like emotions determine reality, because you hear that all the time, right? You hear that all the time. That thoughts determine reality. It's about what you think, but it's not necessarily about what you think. It's about what you feel that determines your reality, right? And same thing with intrusive thoughts. If you want to combat intrusive thoughts, you have to cut it off at the energetic source, which is the fear, which is the core state of fear, right? Fear is the core state of this entire simulation, of this entire reincarnation soul trap, of this entire thing. The core state is the state of fear. So if you learn how to exit that, if you learn how to exit that emotional state, then everything else follows. And so that's like one way to do it, and I think that's the primary way that I do it. But the other way is to essentially yet again get outside of your head, by putting your attention to the physical body, putting your attention to your physical surroundings, putting your attention to the senses. Right? Maybe you can, like, wear a rubber band and, like, snap it. I don't really do that. That's just something that came to my head. It's like, yet again, it's like you're putting your attention to your physical body, and getting outside of your head. That's another way to do it. But if you want to cut off intrusive thoughts at the source, you have to cut off the energetic source of those thoughts, which is the fear. And so if you which is the emotion of fear, right? So if you learn how to control your emotions, you learn how to exit the emotion of fear, then you can cut off intrusive thoughts entirely at their energetic source. But yeah, that's the video.